11:30.
I saw your lips moving, so I turned the volume up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wasn't that at all.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting. I would ask you all to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to point out the exits, which are behind us and then also behind the audience. I'd also like to point out to you that this evening, Teresa Budick, our member Teresa Budick, is joining us via Zoom, which is allowable by the Open Meetings Law, and she is with Lewis on his iPad, just to let you know that. Okay, so first order of business is public comments. The public may address the board at times indicated on the agenda, with the first opportunity being early in the meeting and the second opportunity later in the meeting. Each person is asked to speak into the microphone and identify himself or herself. Speakers are asked to limit comments to 3 minutes. The public comment period will have a 30-minute allocation. We would ask that if the 30-minute mark is being reached, then the rest of the comments be held until the final comment period later in the meeting. Please remember that there's no cross-discussing between persons or the board. Each speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please remember that personal attacks of any kind have no place in our community, district, or meetings, and only serve to create conflict and tear us apart at the exact moment when we should be coming together. Anything of this nature directed towards staff, students, or the community is unacceptable. Anyone wishing to speak at this time, we have the podium and microphone.
Is it on? Yeah. Good evening. I'm Michelle Dimitro, president of the PTO at Willow, and a parent to 2 third graders in the district. I've been attending meetings fairly regularly recently and made some impromptu remarks at a previous meeting. I know the board has been giving a lot of thought to the upcoming capital project, what it should and shouldn't include, how to position it effectively to get it to pass, how the expenditures will improve our schools and make our district even better. But it seems to me you've been forgetting about our most crucial asset, one very important intangible, the human factor, the people, the teachers and nurses who fill those buildings every day, the ones who commit their lives and dedicate their careers to our children, the ones who made our district what it is today and strive to make it even better for tomorrow. Who wins if we build an $8.5 million athletic facility, no matter where it's located, if there is no one to teach our student athletes how to lose with grace? What's the point of new cabinetry throughout Lee Road, ones that don't pinch little fingers, if there's not a qualified, compassionate nurse on hand to dry those tears when they inevitably do? What's the value of replacing the bathroom fixtures at the middle school, Willow, Lee Road, and COH, if the teachers in those buildings, the daily fixtures in our children's lives, feel undervalued? What's the worth of replacing guardrails throughout Willow if the teachers and nurses who put their safety at risk throughout the pandemic to safeguard our children aren't paid what they're worth? What good is repaving parking lots at the middle school and Lee Road if we don't retain our quality teachers, the ones that pave the way for our students' futures? What good is passing a $23 million capital project if we continue to fail the very people that ensure our children's success? I think we all understand how important the capital project, also known as the bond, is for our district. But I think the more important focus right now, the real capital project, should be the human one. Because the real bond, the one that matters most, is the one those teachers and nurses have with our children. And I'm asking this board to please start prioritizing that bond. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tara Markle, and my daughter attends 2nd grade at Lee Road. I spoke at the December 20th Board of Ed meeting in support of our wonderful teachers in the Cornwall district. And tonight I would like to highlight our amazing nurses who are also working without a contract. Nurses, just like teachers, are professionals and should be recognized as such. Both professions require a degree, license, certification, and ongoing hours of professional development. Teacher and nurse contracts should be one and the same, and they deserve equal pay. The district that I work in recognizes just how overworked nurses have become due to COVID, working with students who have chronic conditions, and the everyday injuries or illnesses that occur. The district also recognized that they would not be able to attract new hires or retain nurses with their previous pay scale, which, might I add, was still higher than Cornwall's. So in December 2021, the district sat down with the nurses and decided to add an additional $15,000 to every step of their contract. This is not a COVID thing. Those nursing professionals will see that additional $15,000 at every step moving forward. Not only did they receive this extra money, they also have more than 10 steps with longevity at steps 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. You all do the math. Would you rather make $56,716 at step 10 with no chance of growth in pay as a Cornwall school nurse, or $76,049 at step 10 in another local district that offers additional steps with longevity? Our school nurses do not just deal with students that need ice, Band-Aids, or the occasional stomach ache. They deal with real medical issues, students that have chronic conditions, and students that are in need of medical attention and care. As a kindergartner, my daughter had one of her first encounters with the nurses on her 5th birthday. Unfortunately, the excitement of her birthday, being in a new school, and waiting too long to use the restroom, she had an accident. What could have been a traumatic and embarrassing situation was handled with so much compassion. My daughter came home and told me about how the nurses helped her that day and even gave her a birthday bookmark. Then in 1st grade, my daughter fell on the playground, hitting her lip on the metal. She split her lip wide open and needed medical attention. The nurses at Lee Road sprang into action and did what they could at school to get the bleeding under control. My daughter ended up needing 5 stitches that day. Had it not been for the nurses and the care she received at Lee Road, the laceration could have been much worse. They kept my daughter calm the entire time she was waiting to be picked up. As a parent, I am eternally grateful that Sarah and Lisa were there to care for my child when I couldn't be. Those are just 2 of my experiences that show how dedicated, skilled, and compassionate our school nurses are in Cornwall. I'm sure as the years go on, I will have more encounters, and I'm sure many other parents in the district have experiences that highlight just how wonderful our nurses are. Mr. Dade, from what I've heard, you got to experience what nurses deal with on a daily basis when you filled in for a portion of the day. I really urge the district to not only do right by our teachers with a new contract, but also provide our nurses with a fair contract that includes competitive pay and opportunities for advancement. No one wants to perform a job and be stuck at the same pay for years. That is obvious with the salary increase that central administration has given to themselves. I know that many of you on the board and in upper admin will sit back and say that Cornwall is a smaller district and that we cannot compare the salaries of teachers and nurses to other districts. If that is the case, if we really can't compare the salaries of teachers and nurses to other districts, then why does central administration in Cornwall make just as much, sometimes more than central administration in other local districts? For example, Goshen's superintendent makes $242,000, whereas Terry Dade's salary is $260,000. Goshen's assistant superintendent for instruction salary is $198,572, where Megan Argenio's salary is $185,603 with longevity of $3,000 being added to her base salary in July, bringing her salary to $188,603. This does not account for her percent raises and free long-term health care at her retirement for her family. Goshen's superintendent for businesses salary is $155,279. Harvey Sotland's salary here is $211,739, plus a one-time COVID bonus of $3,500. Where is the COVID bonus for teachers, nurses, and other staff members? As you can see, Cornwall's central administration is either on par or above larger district central administration salaries. Our teachers and nurses should be on par as well. Lastly, I would like to address how a parent spoke out the last board meeting regarding her child not being able to attend school due to nurse availability for that day. This is outrageous and violates that child's rights. I urge the board to look into whether or not the district's substitute nurse was utilized properly that day. I really hope the board has reached out to that parent to rectify the situation and guarantee that will never occur again. I notice when people speak at these board meetings, there is nowhere to sign in or provide contact information. So how is there ever any follow-up? You say that you're hearing those that speak up, but are you really? Thank you for listening tonight, and I look forward to seeing our teachers and nurses receive a fair and competitive contract.
Hello, my name is Amber Berardinelli, and I'm here standing speaking to you, the Board of Education, in support of the nurses and teachers. My first time, thank you. It's so important that our nurses and teachers get a fair contract. We want to be able to attain and keep these valuable employees. The nurses and teachers do so much more that you don't even realize. From the time my senior now had a head injury in elementary school, they called me and they knew that I needed to get him seen right away, because that's what they do. Or when my sixth grader now, when he was in elementary school, found a loose EpiPen, not ours, not anybody that we knew, but found it on the playground and stuck himself because he's in elementary school, they don't know. Went to the nurse knew what to do. They have been so supportive of that same child who has a chronic severe skin issue. Or when my seventh grader passed away suddenly, the nurses and teachers were there for my other children to give them an extra hug or shoulder to cry on. They are very supportive of the families in the school district. It's not just about the Band-Aids, bruises, pencils, and ice packs. It's so much more. And now add on this pandemic that seems to be going on forever. The amount of responsibility on the part of the nurses and teachers has grown exponentially. I understand prices go up for health insurance, but to think that a 2% raise and then to increase their health insurance is a fair, I beg to differ. And then the project bond. Generations change, traditions change. Put it where the kids play. But thank you for letting me speak, and I urge you to come to terms on a fair contract so that all will be happy.
Evening. My name is Christine Hull. I have 3 children currently in the Cornwall School District. My youngest child is in 5th grade at the middle school and is a type 1 diabetic. Addie was diagnosed 2 weeks before she started the 2nd grade. I don't know how familiar you are with type 1, but it is a relentless, chronic disease that offers no breaks and currently has no cure. Addie spent a week in the hospital at the time of her diagnosis, and 3 of those days were in the ICU. The thought of having to send her to school just a week after she was discharged was terrifying. I'm here to tell you that I would not have gotten through that period without the nurses at CES, Sarah Bain, Lisa Priori, and teacher Michelle McHale, a fellow type 1 mom. Those first few weeks, I spent a lot of time in the nurse's office. The 3 of us learned how to manage Addie's diabetes together. Addie's first continuous glucose monitor was put on in the nurse's office with the help of Mrs. McHale during her free period. Mrs. McHale inserted the device into my child and gave us a crash course on how this monitor works. Talk about going above and beyond. She was not even Addie's teacher. It goes to show you that the teachers in this district are so much more than educators. They are here for our kids on so many levels. They are the best thing about this district. The glucose monitor allows the nurses to monitor Addie's blood sugar on an iPad in their office while Addie can stay in class. And monitor they do all day long. When it was time for Addie to transition from insulin injections to a pump, a diabetic trainer from the pump company came to CES to train myself and nurses. This was after school and on the nurse's own time. The pump and the glucose monitor are amazing conveniences that help tremendously, but they do not make the job of managing a type 1 diabetic easy. Every bite of food must be considered, and insulin needs to be given. If Addie is given too much insulin, her blood sugar drops. If she's not given enough, she rises. Both highs and lows affect her mentally and physically. Prolonged highs and lows can lead to serious health complications and even death. Sometimes Addie's blood sugar drops so low that it's unsafe for her to get to the nurse unassisted, and the nurses have to go to her. Addie is a full-time job on her own. But alas, the nurses have many, many other children and responsibilities that they must attend to. Whenever I'm in the nurse's office, I'm blown away by the amount of kids that are in and out of that office. Their to-do list is endless, and they often go nonstop without breaks. I need our nurses. My children need the nurses. The entire student body needs the nurses. And even if the parents don't realize it, they need them in the schools too. Our districts needs to retain the nurses that we have and attract the same exact type, highly educated and well experienced. We cannot do that unless we offer fair compensation and the contract they deserve. I beg of you, please support our nurses. My daughter's life depends on it, and your child's may too.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alex Lane. I was a 3-year starter on varsity football, playing in the 2019 state championship, as well as being a captain this previous season as a senior. And this is Dan Berhenny, the current starting quarterback. We both just want to say thank you for your time, as well as to tell you how strongly we feel about this proposal. This school has gone through so many different challenges, especially dealing with our facilities. Installing this new field up at the high school has the potential to change so many different things throughout all the sports in the school. I know from just football alone that when we would need to practice throughout the year, some days we had to stay inside because it had rained the night before and the field was unplayable, or further into the postseason when it started to snow, renting an indoor facility because there was too much snow on the field and we weren't able to practice on it. Now, although we truly believe that our high school needs a new field, we feel that the current location of our game field in the middle school of Cornwall has always been known to be where you go to watch football on Friday nights. This location is very capable of bringing together the entire community, as well as being in the town that we are representing in Cornwall. For decades, the current middle school location has been the place to go on Friday nights, and we all know that this is the spot where we should have a field to play on. This spot is especially special because it allows all of the kids to run over and give the varsity team high fives right after practice, which give them all something to look forward to and get themselves up to the highest potential possible. Not only is this field used for football on Friday nights, but there are also the thousands of little kids that have played in the exact spot and remember how it feels to play and win on that field. We both feel that as a community, we should not stop that feeling of playing at the same field as all of the players that have come before them.
Before I start, I just want to say those two kids, I wish I was as engaged in my education and what was going on in my school at 18 and 17 as they are. Anyway, good evening. My name is Kevin Lavelle, and I'm the father of 2 children in the Cornwall School District. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my children who have been unnecessarily masked in school for far too long. The governor has hinted that she will not renew the mask mandates when they expire next month, instead giving authority to local municipalities and school districts. Recently, the newly elected Nassau County executive signed an executive order banning mask mandates in Nassau County, including in schools. Last week, the Massapequa Board of Education, which has been a leader in the fight to unmask children, voted unanimously to end the mask mandate in their district when it expires next month. Many other districts throughout Long Island are holding similar votes in the coming days and weeks. The momentum is finally growing to challenge the state in removing some of the most harmful COVID mandates regarding our children. I'm calling on the Cornwall Board of Education to hold a similar vote to end the mandate when it expires and give parents the choice whether to mask their children or not. Our politically compromised CDC has touted studies in which they conclude that school mask mandates correlated with lower case rates. However, upon closer examination and scrutiny from many in the medical and statistical analysis communities, those studies had major limitations and confounding errors. What the CDC summarizes about those studies and what they actually determined are wildly different and should be a cause for concern for anyone who had put faith in the CDC to set policy based on science and not political narrative. The recommendations on masking children coming from the CDC are very different from the World Health Organization, the ECDC, and UNICEF. Perhaps, and this is not anything to do with the teachers here tonight, you guys are wonderful, but perhaps the National Teachers Union did not have the opportunity to sit down with those organizations before they released their guidance. Or possibly they are more concerned with the health and well-being of children and not large political campaign donations. Millions of children in Europe and other states around the U.S. Have not been wearing masks in schools for a long time, yet there is no evidence that kids in Europe or in those states are at greater risk of severe illness or have had worse outcomes. Masks are not a benign intervention. They interfere with language acquisition, reading comprehension, social and emotional development. Seeing faces is a fundamental part of how humans, especially children, learn, connect, and communicate with each other. Children at all levels of education are suffering from the burdensome and unnecessary restrictions in schools, from masking, unwarranted quarantining, and testing of our healthy children to social isolation and excessive screen time. Our most valuable students suffer the most, our most vulnerable students suffer the most, and they are the ones that we should strive to protect and boost to succeed. At the August board meeting, I spoke about masks and proper use of PPE. My primary point was that children, especially our younger children, are unable to properly wear and use a face covering. Enforcing a mask mandate in schools is an ineffective step in stopping the spread of COVID. I asked the board and the audience members to put down their phones, shut off their TVs, and just watch children play and interact with the mask on. They would quickly see that although a child may tolerate the mask, it is not fitting properly, nor is it being worn properly, and is therefore ineffective. How can we knowingly mandate such a harmful intervention on the most innocent of our society, robbing them of their precious few years of schooling, sports, and social activities? Did anyone really believe an ill-fitted piece of cloth muzzling a child was the reason COVID had very little impact on them? It's truly shameful behavior on the part of our elected officials at all levels of government, the unelected health bureaucrats, and our national media for repeating lie after lie in hopes to instill everlasting fear and panic amongst the masses, taking advantage of a parent's unconditional commitment to the health and safety of their children, and spoon-feeding health policy that is in lockstep with the current political narrative and not based in science. It is no longer acceptable for our elected officials to deflect blame on others. It is no longer acceptable to say our hands are tied. It is no longer acceptable to sit and wait for updated guidance while our children continue to suffer. The time is now for the Cornwall Central School District to step up and be a leader amongst surrounding districts and vote to end the mask mandate when it expires next month. Parents should have the choice to mask or not. When we look back in history at what was done to our children during the COVID pandemic, many will have to hang their heads in shame, knowing full well they hurt our children for their own political gain. They will look ignorant, cruel, fearful, and cowardly for insisting that children wear masks for hours on end, year after year, while pretending the practice would have no negative impacts on them. The results of these disastrous policies inflicted on our children probably won't fully be realized for many years, but they will echo in eternity as the most failed and harmful of the entire pandemic, a truly catastrophic moral crime. Let's get Cornwall on the right side of history. Thank you.
My name is Caitlin Milots. I am here tonight to express my support for our teachers and nurses as they continue to pursue a fair contract from the district. I'm a graduate of Cornwall School District and now a parent in the district. My oldest child is in second grade here at Lee Road. She has not yet been able to experience what we would consider a typical school year. She entered kindergarten in 2019. She was as nervous as we were for her to start school, nervous but also excited. We were lucky enough to have Mrs. Aguilar and her assistant, Mrs. Baltazar. The beginning of the school year eased all of our jitters. Mrs. Aguilar's class was filled with STEM activities, class parties, and was evolving into a great introduction to what school would be. That was all halted, of course, by COVID. It was clear from the beginning that our teachers had no direct guidance on how to proceed. Mrs. Aguilar pulled together Google Meets and delivered lessons plans to our front door. Not only did she configure her curriculum across this unknown virtual model, but she had an added challenge. There was an ENL student in the class. This student and her mother required translation from them over the virtual platform in real time in order for her to continue through lesson plans with the rest of the class. Both teachers continue to offer this student the academic support she needed while trying to minimize it interfering with the other students' learning. At the end of the school year, we organized a drive-by parade to surprise Mrs. Aguilar at her home and provide her and the kids with some sort of proper end of the year. Every parent showed up with their student, and that speaks volumes to the level of commitment they saw from her and how much they appreciated her efforts. The following year, although hopeful, was yet again not a typical school year. We had to contend with a hybrid model with asynchronous learning, masks, and social distancing. My fear as a parent for that year was not the inconsistency of not being able to attend school 5 days a week, but also what emotionally my child may feel in school. I did not want her fearing classmates or teachers because of COVID. I wanted her to be able to engage socially with peers and, most importantly, catch up on what had been left with the prior shortened year. And so here enters Mrs. Early, full of fun and positivity and a drive to keep the days going and the kids engaged. She reached out to me at the beginning of the school year with her concern over my daughter's reading level, but she said, I know she can do it. She knew my daughter needed confidence, and she built that up with her. She tapped into anything that was motivating for her, including her favorite thing to do, cook. Their entire year's worth of journal writing was a back and forth swap of recipes and really just two foodies talking about what they love most. Mrs. Early on separate occasions called me during her breaks because she had to let me know how well my daughter was doing. As a parent, there is no better feeling knowing that someone is rooting and working for your kid as much as you are, and we found that with her. So now here we are in second grade again, not a typical school year, but at least they're here 5 days a week with just a few less restrictions. Our year actually started without a teacher. As world events would have it, Mr. Schofield was called to active military duty just days prior to the start of the year. A bit concerned about the absence of a teacher for the first couple of weeks, we put our trust in the school and our thoughts were only for his safe return. And he has not let us down. He brings a different dynamic to the classroom with his love of sports, the outdoors, and of course, the gerbils, peanut butter and jelly. The kids truly look at him like their real-life G.I. Joe teacher, and he can't say enough about how much he loves this class. He works to bring them the normalcy they deserve and enrich learning environment. It's not just our classroom teachers, but Miss Rydell, Miss Burns, Mr. McGuire, Mr. Moulton, Miss Hanson, and Miss Cisco who continue to expand and expose our kids to different experiences and interests, and I think it's important to not forget what they do and what they bring. I want to say thank you to our nurses. I have heard all of the additional demands that have been placed on you since COVID, and thank you for continuing to care for our children while fielding that added layer. I admire and appreciate you advocating for yourselves and your colleagues. Lastly, Mr. Dade, although he's not here, your social media accounts were brought up during the last meeting, and while I have no problem with your references to or pictures of alcohol since you are an of-age adult, I do have a problem with these memes and tweets and a running feed with our students. I strongly encourage you to look at your level of professionalism. Additionally, there are many parents who go out of their way to keep their kids' pictures off of social media. I would hope that before posting their pictures, you know that their parents are in
Ms.
agreement.
Mila, I would ask you to please refrain from any sort of criticism of a person in the district, thank you, or
Okay.
any people in general, thank you.
Okay. To our teachers and nurses, I ask you not to get discouraged and to not let the morale drop, because it is you and not the central administration who our kids admire and look forward to seeing every day. It is you and not our central administration that our children will remember for the rest of their lives. And it is you and not central administration that offers them care when they are hurt or sick. Myself and other members of the community will continue to support you. Thank you.
Hello, Rick Joya from Village Cornwall. I'm here to just amplify the views expressed by Mr. Anthony Incano in two recent local letters regarding the use of artificial turf as opposed to natural turf on the field wherever it's built. And I would also like to amplify the opinions of the two current players, as well as Trustee Carnwright, who has expressed the logic of maintaining the history of the way that football has been played in our community. And I guess if I had to distill it down to one sentence, it would be to invoke the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. We have a field, we have a system in this community that's been in place, and it was a tacit, or maybe not even so tacit, agreement about how football would continue to be played in our community once the new high school was built. And that seems to have been compromised. Maybe there's been some see it as a betrayal that it's gone to the high school. I don't want to get into that as much as I really want to discuss what I think is the huge issue, which is the possibility of having our children playing on carcinogenic, lead-laced material. Mr. Incano, in a very detailed and systematic way, listed the academics who have basically spoken to this. And I'll just read a quote from Dr. Zuckerman from the Environmental Health Sciences. There is a dangerous trend of replacing natural fields and playground surfaces with materials that are dangerous to our children's health, potentially dangerous to our adult fertility and health, and bad for our environment. In the last year, we've learned new information about lead and PFAS in artificial turf, as well as the risks of some of the newer materials that turf companies are using to replace tire crumb. I hope that the board has a sober assessment of who's marketing to them. And obviously, there are strong economic interests for companies to sell the school district a certain product. And I think that has to be dealt with clear eyes. This is about our kids' health. It's also about the economic and spiritual health of our community. In my opinion, Natural Turf, a professional colleague of mine who lives in Hastings-on-Hudson, they just went through this whole process very recently, and they ultimately opted for Natural Turf. Properly graded and properly drained, this is a perfectly healthy and sustainable surface to play on. And I think it needs, I feel like it's being swept under the carpet, so to speak, excuse the pun, or not. But that's what it is, it's a carpet. And I spoke at a subcommittee a month or so ago and expressed my view that that drainage at the middle school, if the field were to remain there, would represent a potential hazard for low-lying homes immediately to the north of the field. So it seems to me the best thing is to do the least, which is keep the field where it is and make it an excellent quality natural turf field. And this would probably be the most economically sustainable and also in terms of our health. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're at our 30-minute mark for comments, so we will have additional comments at the end of the meeting. Our next order of business is our student representatives, John Germain and Caleb Sandler.
Good evening. So as usual, we're going to be reading all of the comments from the different schools across the district, and I'm going to be starting with COH right now. So this is a letter from the administration at COH. The character trait of cooperation has been prevalent throughout the COH community during the month of January. The halls were filled with work that has been done under the theme cooperation. Additionally, COH celebrated Dress as Your Future Self Day on January 21st. Students dressed in clothes and costumes that depicted what they wanted to be when they grew up. The halls were filled with police, firefighters, teachers, doctors, baseball players, nurses, and scientists. During the month of January, the 3rd and 4th grade students continued their explorations of various reference sources, reinforcing that Google doesn't always have all the answers, as we might believe. They can use the OPAL system to find a book at COH or use a library card for the public library. Many 3rd and 4th grade students have been working diligently preparing for the upcoming elementary school science expo being held on January 31st at the middle school from 6 to 7 p.m. And the snow date is February 1st at the same time, just in case anyone wanted to attend. January brought the start of drama rehearsals at COH. The PTO is excited for the upcoming production of Aladdin Jr. The adults and students involved are super excited to once again be working towards putting on a show for a live audience, something which hasn't happened in over 2 years.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be moving to the Lee Road write-up. At Cornwall Elementary School, we have started the new year off with many exciting activities. Our students are very excited for the drama production of The Little Mermaid Jr. They have been working very hard to learn their lines and dance routines. We cannot wait to see their hard work come alive on Thursday, February 10th, and Saturday, February 12th. Mr. Cashman interviewed Mrs. McHale's class about their visit to the National Purple Heart Hall of Honor, which was televised on the Channel 4 News. All the students watched the telecast. The students loved the interactive exhibits and trying on the old uniforms. They explained to Mr. Cashman the difference between service and volunteer work. On Monday, January 10th, Dave Beal of Brain Power Wellness conducted his second round of in-person classroom visits, as well as a staff-wide SEL training session. Students and staff alike have benefited from the Brain Power Wellness mindfulness and meditation training. The PTO after-school activities have started and are held on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon until February 8th. Over 116 students are enrolled in Tuesday classes and 127 students are enrolled in Wednesday's classes. The programs offer the following classes: STEM, magic potions and slime, cooking, smarts and crafts, wings and strings, tumble bus, yoga, soccer, and tennis. Some of our students are learning sign language. We appreciate the PTO and all the volunteers for their time and to provide a successful program for our students. On January 31st, 3rd and 4th grade students will be participating in the Science Expo, which is being held at CCMS at 6 p.m. It will be exciting to see all of our students' science exhibits on display.
Now I'm going to be moving to a letter from the Willow Avenue Elementary School from the principal, Mrs. Buckholtz. Willow Avenue kicked off this new year with our monthly character trait of cooperation. Each class read the book Swimming with our school social worker, Miss Zawicki, and completed the cooperation activities together. Students have done an excellent job of modeling this trait. Students spent last week studying the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through reading articles, watching videos, and singing songs. They learned that Dr. King had a dream where everyone would be kind, helpful, and respectful to others. So, in response, we have decided to participate in a special kindness project to celebrate his message. Starting January 14th and ending on Monday, February 14th, we are going to see if, as a school, we can complete 1,000 acts of kindness. So far, we have 90 acts of kindness. In kindergarten, they are proceeding to tackle addition. Making numbers greater will be their mission. The sight word list will continue to grow, and you won't believe how many they will know. In science, they will wonder about winter, snow, and night. Where do the snowmen go? Second grade has strengthened their writing while completing book reports on their favorite winter books. They had a great time sharing their book reports and even wrote the next chapter for the books they have read. They are also amazing in addition with regrouping now too. We are ending this month with our Frozen Let It Snow School Spirit Day next Friday. Students will be dressing up as snowmen or their favorite character from the movie Frozen and secretly hoping for a snow day.
And now to the CCMS write-up. 7th and 8th grade Student Activities Council has been collecting donations for a local animal shelter in memory of Betty White. Our school's generosity, once again, has blown us away. We've collected thousands of pounds of food, blankets, treats, and supplies. The CCMS Music Department was finally able to hold their first concert since 2020. The audience was treated to beautiful performances by all of our bands, orchestra, and choruses. Many thanks to the CCMS Music Department for all of their work planning these events. We appreciate all that you do, all you do to allow our students to make music. Congratulations to Abby Cruz, who published her first book, Wild Stripes. Abigail wrote her book during the CCMS Writing Club, led by Mrs. Logren. It will be available in the CCMS library for students to borrow.
And finally, on to the high school. Within these past few weeks, there's been of what you might call the post-holiday blues, as we all recoiled from the speed, vigor, and excitement the fall brought and returned to normalcy after our nearly 2-year hiatus from basic life. Regardless, these past 2 weeks have been pretty slow at the high school. The drama department has begun their rehearsals for the spring musical Mamma Mia as they work towards production later this spring. Also, OCMA all-county performances are happening later this week at the high school for vocal, orchestral, and band performances. In addition to the arts, winter sports are in full swing and have been very successful in the beginning of their winter seasons.
The work ethic of our athletes at Cornwall Central High School is something to truly admire. The girls' basketball team ended their week with an impressive win against league rival Goshen. Senior Gabby Shapiro led with 9 points. The boys' basketball team prepares to face league rival Washingtonville this Friday. They are 4-2 in their league, which means they only need 2 more wins to gain a spot in the playoffs. The wrestling team had a huge weekend as they went 4-0 in the Wallkill Duels tournament. Special congratulations to Theo Ballantyne, Nick Cavallo, Tyler Reed, and Gavin First for the wins. Additionally, The 4x100 boys track team clocked the current fastest time in New York State this past week. The team includes Giles Addison, Charles Cypress, Mark-Sean Montero, and Christian Sterling. The anchor, Mark-Sean, was miles behind the leader when he started his lap. It seemed as if the Cornwall boys had no chance of winning, but Mark-Sean showed off his lightning speed to take first place. Even though this is an outstanding achievement, the boys aren't satisfied yet. They have their eyes on nationals.
I just want to reiterate what we said at the beginning of the high school proposal is it really has been a nice slowdown. The fall was so exciting and fast, and it was, as I've said probably 20 times to this board, a return to normalcy as we all were hoping for moving forward. But definitely after the winter break, we were all able to relax and deal with some fun snow flurries and such here and there, which has been interesting. But overall, just slower and just very typical.
Yeah, I mean, everything's pretty much been the same aside from our masks. And, just seeing the success that we have in our bands and all the athletics and even the academics is just truly outstanding.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Caleb. Always the highlight of our meeting to have you both share everything that's going on in the district. Thank you so very much. We're going to move on to committee updates. Margaret, do you have an update for us?
I do. You want me to do OXPA? I'll do OXPA. Okay. So the Orange County School Boards Association had a meeting on January 12th. We had a nice presentation by John Daly, who's the government relations attorney for NYSBA. He talked about a number of different items that are on the desk. Specifically of interest were Charter 733, which is an immunization database that's more effective and allows for more access by school nurses. So that's been something that's been in the works, and that's something that they passed. Governor Hochul, in her State of the State address, and he updated this too, said that she plans to fully fund foundation aid, which is something we can keep our fingers crossed for. And then the virtual meetings extension, so that when COVID came, we were able to have virtual meetings. That expired on the 15th of January, but on her desk was an extension of that in perpetuity until she says, I'm taking it away now. So that's good. Districts can opt to use it if they need to. And John also said that they have great contacts at the governor's office. So because we had kind of said, there are some things that come down from SED and maybe the governor's office that are not, very well put together or comprehensible. And he offered to help. He gave us his information and said that they can help interpret any items, anything that we need help with the SED or the governor's office. So nice to have somebody on our side for that stuff. And that's it.
Thank you.
Margaret,
Yes.
would you like to touch base on the Boces visitation?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So the Board of Ed also went to, that's right, because I'm visitation committee too, yeah, right. On the visitation committee front, the Board of Ed did go to Boces, Boces out in Goshen. We see that we have so many students who are in so many of our different buildings, all 5 of them here, but there's also the Boces programs in Goshen. And so we got a chance to go take a tour there, talk to a number of the teachers, see the amazing C-Tech programs that exist, chat with some students that, one of my big observations when we were there, I used to teach 2nd grade and I teach college now. Today was my first day of the semester, and you do get those students who are kind of not engaged 100%. You're always trying to figure out what to do to get them engaged. There was not a single child in the C-Tech program who was not 100%. We walked into the welding room, and those kids, they were all hands-on, building things, and all just engaging and talking and working together, and kind of made me think that I need to go and learn a trade because, to see what these kids were creating was just amazing. They do work with areas outside where they're framing pieces of walls and things for actual buildings. Like they do real world stuff, which is very, very cool. But yeah, and we got to see the special ed wing there as well. There were not as many kids there. There were a number that were out with COVID, but all the different programs that they have there, amazing too. You know, when our district can't meet the needs of what some of the kids have, it's so nice to know that Boces will create programs specifically that will help specific needs for kids too. So, and that's for the entire district, which is great. It was really, really eye-opening, and I'm actually hoping that we can go again because we only saw a little tiny bit of the CTEC programs that they have and a little tiny bit of the special ed programs. So I'm hoping that in the spring we'll be able to go again. So anybody who wasn't able to make it can go there and see firsthand. Because when we told the Expo people, all the other districts at our meeting, and they were very jealous, you know, that we were the first ones to go, and they're all lining up. So, you know, we got to set some things here in Cornwall. That's all.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you for organizing that as well. Unless any other committee, which I don't believe has a report at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan for communications.
And I'm just going to give a brief presentation, everybody. So. Testing? No? Now we're good? Now we're good. Okay, so just a little bit of a refresher. For those that don't know, the Communication Committee has been working to support the capital project over the last few months. We've been doing a lot of different activities. We've basically broken up the year into two phases. First phase, we're taking information in from the community, getting feedback through our outreach efforts. Phase 2 will be the rest of the year through the spring, which will be more giving information out to the community, explaining concepts around the capital project, things like that. We're at an inflection point now, so I thought it was a good time to share what we've been up to and what we've learned. Before I get started, I just want to give a thank you to the Communication Committee, Margaret Quinn, Nina Ross on the board. We got Oscar Rivas, Richard Schaffner, Tom Mofield are here. You didn't know I was going to call you out, but I'm going to do that. They've been instrumental in planning the events and things that we've done and then actually pulling them off. Okay, so what have we been up to? Since September, we've done a whole bunch of stuff. They include a district-wide community survey. This was the postcard that was sent in the mail to every resident of the district. We've had community forums, both public and with smaller groups. One of them was right here in this room. We've been sending emails, social media updates. We've created a dedicated capital project website, which is maybe glorifying it a little too much. It's a tab on the current website, but that's only for ease of access, where we've been posting all of the different videos and summaries and all the stuff that have been happening in all the other forums and committees. And importantly, we've been coordinating with the Facilities Committee. This has been kind of operating on two fronts, where the Communication Committee will get input and then cycle it into the Facilities Committee as it's made its important decisions as it narrows the scope of the project. Now, what has the committee learned? So I'm going to go through a few slides where we actually have the official results of the community survey. So we just wanted to get a sense at first who was responding to the survey. So you see 530 responses, which was, I thought, a healthy response. Pretty much down the middle of people who have kids in the school district and those who don't. We asked them to rank the areas that they would like to address in order of priority, with one being the highest priority. The three options were upgrading aging infrastructure. So that was meant to include kind of like a big bucket of things: mechanical, plumbing, anything that was roof related, anything that was within the four walls of the building. Upgrading the athletic facilities, and then exterior site repair. So think pavement, parking lots, things like that. the clear first choice winner was upgrading aging infrastructure. That got 70 some odd percent. I have it broken down in the next slide. And then it was a bit of a mixed bag for the rest of it, to be honest. I know everybody says, oh, I'm a visual learner. When I see graphs, my eyes just start spinning. So I broke it down here just by numbers. Aging infrastructure got 76% were first choice votes. Athletic facility got 21%, site work 3%. You can see how it breaks down from there, but I wanted to put it into a usable metric. So as is common when you do ranked choice voting, I gave just a very simple weighting system, 3 points for any first place vote, 2 points for any second place, only 1 point for a third place vote. By that calculation, upgrading aging infrastructure, still the clear number one, 274, athletic facility coming in a somewhat distant second, 175, with site work behind that. So just giving a sense of what the community respondents were listing as their priorities. We wanted to ask another question around athletic facilities, just knowing that it was going to be a popular topic. If the proposal included improvements to athletic facilities without raising taxes, would you support that? Just going back to the last two bonds, we knew that athletic facilities was a pretty hot button topic, but we wanted to gauge, what would people's opinions be if there was no increase in taxes, and how would that affect their opinion? And it was a pretty positive response. I mean, you see there, 54% was a clear yes. If you combine the yes and the most likelies, that was roughly 68%, with only about 8% saying no and a quarter of respondents needing more information. So 68% either hard yes or most likely, to an 8% clear no. So again, I think overall very positive response to possibility of athletic facilities. Now, what does the committee learn? Now we move into the community forums, and this is a bit more nebulous. We don't have, numbers and figures. This is kind of just collecting the themes that kept emerging through public comment. One of the themes that was presented and I think has been adopted and internalized by both the facilities committee and the larger board is the need to present a long-term strategic plan to address all facility needs. So for those who don't know, we started out, there was a big planning document that had like $50 million worth of needs, which we couldn't do in a single project. The goal was to get that down to 23 million, which would be within the scope that we could do without raising taxes, which obviously leaves $27 million worth of projects that would not be addressed. So the goal would be to find a path, or at least a plan for addressing those as well. And this is something that kept coming back. So, not being reactive, be forward thinking, how to address all these facility needs in the next, if not, on this bond, at least in the next few years. We kept hearing how to must tell the community how it will address the projects left off the list. In response to that, we have come up with a plan through the facility committee, doing a lot of those projects in-house, planning on another capital project in subsequent years to address some of the ones that we can't do in-house. We heard one comment or one idea that kept coming up. Consider creating a sort of comprehensive plan that would address both facility and academic needs. I think that was more of like a long-term suggestion, but I think in the short term, just coming up with those paths to funding or addressing all of the needs that were initially identified by the committee. The athletic facility was clearly the most discussed topic. I think overall, there was support expressed for both locations, high school and middle school. I would say the middle school side was very vocal, but that's not to say that there weren't those that thought the high school was adequate and preferable as well. The supporters of the middle school cited many things, and we've heard this at our own meetings: impact on youth sports, its value to local businesses, the amount of parking at the high school was brought up as an issue. I would say many, although certainly not all, supporters of the middle school facility said they would support a facility at the high school as well. They clearly preferred a middle school facility, but would be okay with one at the high school if that's how it came to be. There was a couple of neighboring residents at the high school who expressed concern about the current lack of fencing and how the influx of new people would impact that. Terry has addressed that, saying that we would include a fence in any capital project, but just wanted to be sure that that was memorialized. And concern over the potential health issues related to artificial turf. Main issue being the crumb rubber infill that is commonly used in artificial turf. I think we've all been hearing about that a lot at our meetings as well. And a general concern that one field is not enough. Some worrying that there would be too much demand for one field, and argued in favor of installing turf at both the high school and the middle school, which the facilities committee determined just was not within scope. It was a choice of basically either doing one of the locations completely or kind of doing two of the locations halfway, which the committee was not in favor of doing. Okay, so just one, I wanted to talk about how we coordinated with the facilities committee, what that actually, how that actually manifested. The best way I could do it is just to break it down by those responses that we got from the survey and how it actually shook out in the allocation with the capital project itself. So you see the points versus the allocation. It's not one-to-one, it's not a mathematical mirror, but it does show that the final proposed project represents as closely as we could get it, what the public was certainly prioritizing. Okay, now what's next for the communication committee? I mentioned before this was phase 1, and now we're going into phase 2. That'll consist of community, I would say, presentations versus forums, because this is going to be more about giving information as opposed to taking information in. Certainly we'll be asking questions, answering questions at these events, but it's definitely going to be more about presenting information than taking in input. We're planning a video series to highlight and explain the capital project. We're working with a partner to do that, along with informational pamphlets, newsletters, and postcards. We are working with Boces on that. Continued email, social media updates, and of course a Get Out the Vote effort, which will touch on a lot of those other categories as well, but we'll be working with the communication committee in the next few weeks, or having a meeting to kind of fill in some of the details on what that would look like, but you can expect some Get Out the Vote efforts generally. All right, so that's it. Any questions, comments?
Brendan, thank you so much, and the whole committee. It was a very thorough report, and if you can get that over to Linda, it can be posted within that portion of the agenda for the public to see as well. Thank you. Okay, we do not have a superintendent's update from Mr. Dade. We do extend our sympathy to the Dade family. Mr. Dade had to travel out of town for a funeral, and so we do extend our sympathy to all of them. As far as my update, I'd like to thank everyone who helped hand out the COVID test Saturday at the district office to our district families. So thank you very much for that effort. I believe it was very well received. The community had one going on also for all Orange County residents down at Donahue Park. And we look forward to February 2nd and sitting down with the CCTA. We move on now to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business may so indicate. Does anyone wish to pull anything out at this time? Okay, so it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, items 2 through 18. Do I have a motion?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. So we're going to move on to proposed capital project resolution. I'm going to ask Larry to begin, and then I'm going to read the motion. We will need to have the motion moved and then move into discussion.
Just a little bit of background. This whole process started back last September. And matter of fact, it was on September 24th where we met and recommended the Palumbo Group as a district's construction manager. We then met again on September 28th. Members of the committee, and in no particular order, it's just how I put them down: Dave Conride, Harvey Sotland, Jim Cregan, Louis Arginio, myself, Nancy, Terry Dade, Walter Moran, Tom Mulfield, Jeannie Rose, Richard Schaffner, Jennifer Simons, Barb Chambers, Garrett Hamlin, Louis Rodriguez, and Brendan Cardy. Brendan was representing the Communications Committee, and Barb, Garrett, and Louis were from the architects or the construction company. At that meeting, we started this discussion of the scope of the project. They gave us, the architects and construction manager gave us their scope and their readings of it. We then met on October 12th, and cost estimates and athletic facility options were given. Those costs were reviewed. The architects reviewed further. Then we had, after discussion, committee decided to adjust the needs of the individual buildings over the next series of meetings, and then we would get into the athletic facilities. That happened at the next few meetings. We met again on October 26th, going over all the plumbing needs, the roofs, the water issues over at Willow. Then we met on November 9th. We talked about a little more detail of roofs, driveways. We started the athletic discussion. As put in the minutes, it was a bountiful, spirited discussion. We then talked about a possible middle school loop, a bus loop, buildings and grounds, and district office. We then got together again on November 23rd. Mr. Sotland presented timelines. We again discussed the middle school bus loop. We got into a more detailed discussion of the multi-sport athletic complex. We got more detailed financial information on it. And then we got a general update from the architects on the plumbing fixtures and so on that would be needed. December 7th. Incidentally, during this whole process, we would be getting handouts, planning documents. Things would be, as the committee discussed, items would be put into a phase 2 instead of this phase. No items were thrown out. All items were deemed necessary, some more so than others. Some had a life expectancy of another couple of years. They would be put into phase 2. So that would be nothing has been dropped. And then we got to December 21st. And again, we talked about drainage. We talked about the multi-sport complex. Pros and cons discussion took place there. And locations were discussed either at the high school or middle school. The committee members voted on the location the group would recommend to the Board of Ed. The results were 9 for the high school, 1 for the middle school. And the Facilities Committee will be recommending to the Board of Education all terms that we did at our last meeting. That's a brief overview of a lot of meetings.
Thank you, Larry. The Facilities Committee, I believe, met more than any other committee has met in recent memory. So thank you to all the members who put so much time into it. Okay. Whereas the Board of Education established a Facilities Committee to assess the needs of the district in relation to our building, classrooms, education space needs, and athletic complex, and how the district can best meet the present and future needs of our district and outside group usage. And whereas the Board of Education tasked the Facilities Committee to identify and recommend the work scope for a capital project to be put before the voters this coming May, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the recommended work scope identified by the Facilities Committee as per the attached worksheet. Do I have a motion?
So move.
And a second? Okay, and we're going to have discussion now. What I'm going to initially start with is, Nina, I'm going to start with you. We're going to just kind of go around the table for our thoughts, and then if anyone has additional thoughts, they certainly can chime in after that.
Okay. So I'm just curious, one thing that had come up at the last meeting, I think in terms of what's been put out there and scoped, it's been addressed that some things will be taken care of now, and hopefully in setting up another capital contribution, and that we'll be able to fund everything over the medium to longer term. But in terms of the vote, is it going to be 1 or 2 votes in terms of the way it's scoped?
Harvey, go ahead. You can.
The actual determination doesn't have to be made tonight. That warrants further discussion based on last meeting.
Okay. All right. That's the only question I had at this point.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Nancy. So, this is very important for the community. It's very important for the district. It's very important for the kids. Move forward on this. My only concern at this point is we had 2 members of the community speak up after the Facilities Committee met, I believe, back in December. I think one was last meeting. Mr. Icano, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name properly. Anthony, I think, is his first name. And the gentleman this evening who also spoke about the safety of turf fields. And I don't know if we've done adequate follow-up at this juncture based on these real-world issues that have been raised to be able to move forward at this point with focused on we're going to put in a turf field. I'm not sure, based on my own research, that there's enough conclusive evidence one way or the other as it pertains to the safety. It seems like some of the reports that were issued or relied on by Tetra Tech cited things that were in 2008. I also know that there's ongoing research that suggests that the real danger is on turf fields is when it's done inside because of the venting of all these VOCs and the like, and not so much on the outside fields or outdoor fields, other than obviously the heat, which is a huge consideration, right? Because those things just capture heat and become very risky as it pertains to kids and the like, especially during summer months. But I guess my concern is, and it's more of a question, is based on these issues. I didn't know if the Facilities Committee in their review actually did a deep dive on the risk assessment of the turfs and where it stands right now. Like, where is CDC? Where are the state of New York? Where is, I think Connecticut was another state that was cited in the report. Are we satisfied? Is the Facilities Committee satisfied with the research as it exists today, as it pertains to this issue? And if not, I would say that as much as we want to move forward with this, I understand that Harvey has said that we're still on track and that we could actually decide this come February and still be on track. I just worry that if we've had 2, what I would consult experts talk about it, and we haven't addressed their concern as an organization, because I believe their issues were raised, and I could be wrong on that. I mean, they may have raised those concerns to the facilities committee. I'm not 100% sure on the sequencing at all, but from my viewpoint is those merit follow-up and further discussion and deep dive on the prevailing research. Thank you.
Harvey, can I just, and I don't know whether you wish to speak to this. I know Terry did mention something about getting an outside expert in that was not connected to the project, was not connected to making a profit off of anything. Can you speak to that, or?
Yes. So
Thank you.
To address these concerns, a couple things we've already done. The decision to get somebody in here who is objective and can take both the old and the new information and really be able to allow the board to make an informed decision. But the project itself, from the original price of the athletic facility, we have actually factored in the cost for what right now would be it'd be virgin material. Now, if you read the material, be it virgin or not, still has what some parties characterize as a toxic environment. That's why, to go to this objective individual would be the next step.
Just to follow up on that,
Okay.
So what's the timing of that? Have we identified that person? Do we think we'll have this done within the next week, month?
We have not. That has not been determined yet.
So we haven't identified the person yet?
No.
If I
go
follow-up
ahead.
question to that, if we vote on this proposition tonight, does it have to be turf or can it be grass?
Okay, so the reason that there is a little bit of a rush, so to speak, calendar-wise on this is that the nature of having an artificial turf field, based on what is involved with the drainage, primarily, it's approximately anywhere from a 30 to a 60-day period to do the SECRA, the State Environmental Review that the attorneys have to do. If this was not a type 2, if we wouldn't have to worry about this. It's basically one night. The board does a resolution and we're done. But because of the nature of the environmental impact, potentially, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, and it takes 30 to 60 days. The reason for that span is because the nature of the process is we have to reach out to a host of parties, okay? And we have to wait for them to get back to us. If they don't get back to us, we have to follow up. So if you look at the timeline, we don't have a lot of time to make the May vote, okay? So if, for instance, if it's going to take us 60 days to get the SECRA done, okay, that brings us to the end of March, okay? That is pretty much when we have to move forward with our legal notices, which we have to do 45 days before the actual vote, okay? So that's why I say it's kind of tight. Now, to Larry's point, if we go through with the SECRA and we get, we pass, as I expect we would, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to do the artificial turf. It just means that if we go that path, we're clear, okay? You can still make a last-minute decision to go a different route. What I can tell you, though, is that 45 days, which is essentially April 1st, we need to know what we're doing, because the legal notice is very, very specific, and the project cannot move forward without those legal notices going in the papers 45 days before, okay?
So just to just restate what I heard, April 1st is critical for us to know either grass or turf.
It's actually a little before, because we need to make the decision. The attorneys have to do their resolutions, they have to do some paperwork, and then they will get me the information so that I can then get it into the newspaper.
So the last board meeting in March, I guess, is what you
Perhaps. I mean, but remember, the 45 days is when it actually has to physically be in the paper. The first notification has to be in the papers 45 days
So
before.
we needed to get this resolved by the end of March. Do I have
Right.
that right? Yeah, okay,
Correct.
fair. Thank you.
So, sorry, I know I already had my comments, but to the extent that we're doing this and we need this expert, we haven't decided yet who that is, but do we have any idea that we can get that expert in here and have them do their work and get us the information such that we'll have that data to assist us before we hit those, whatever it is, March 15th, March 20th, whatever that deadline date is? I guess that's my first part.
Right.
And my second part is the drainage work that we've put in here. Is it the same drainage work for an AstroTurf field as it would be for, I'll say a grass field? I don't know exactly if that's right.
It would not. It would not. The drainage would be somewhat different on a natural grass field. The reason because there's no absorption. With the natural turf, it's going to absorb into the soil. With an artificial turf, everything drains off. Okay, so you know, if the field doesn't absorb anything, it drains it off.
So would we change that aspect of our planning?
Oh, you mean if you decide to go natural? Absolutely.
Okay, all right. And in terms of experts, do we have a short list, or do we know that someone
We
could?
do not have a short list, but they're out there. We know they're out there, and it's not something that I envision them having to do a study. It's something I envision them knowing both sides of the argument and being objective about it. It may even require, or maybe even be prudent to bring them in here to hear you know, everybody here. But they're out there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Thank you, Nancy. So I guess my just a couple of comments. Larry, as you said, you gave a brief history of it, but really I think you started with just the meetings that we had in the fall. Of course, the process began before that with the building conditions survey and a 5-year study. That's been said in various other meetings, of course, but just wanted to say it's been a very thorough process. Much to my wife's chagrin, putting 4 children to bed. We did have a lot of facilities committee meetings in the fall. I think there's a lot of good work there, a lot of good back and forth. Really worked very closely with Walter Moran, head of Buildings and Grounds, who did excellent work providing the information that we needed as a committee. And I think to Brendan's point, this is, you know, sort of step one. We identified, obviously, we do not have the dollars right now to do all of the needs that we have. So this is what we prioritized as the most important needs. I know we're going to continue to talk at a later date. Do we put up another capital reserve for a vote alongside this in May? Also, you know, I would be in favor of that, of course. If we don't do that, we still have some money coming available when the bond for the current high school comes off in 2029, I believe. Yeah, 2029. So 2029 seems like a long time off, but it's not as far off as you think when you look at how long this process has taken. So so I'm happy in the way this process has unfolded. You know, going back even to the past 2 failed bond votes, the community spoke loudly and said, we want to see this, you know, funded with a capital reserve, and that was passed a few years ago. That's been fully funded. So this project, if it's approved by the voters, can continue with no tax increase, which is really wonderful. I think it sort of sets a model to continue to address the capital needs of our district, which when you have all but one of your buildings is between 50 and 100 years old, you have a lot of capital needs. So I'm very pleased with the way the process went. I think we have a good set of needs here, and I'm happy to vote in support of it when we take the vote.
Yeah, I wasn't on the committee. I did watch a lot of it remotely. I do really want to give a shout out again to the facilities committee for all the time that you all put into it, and also to the way that you know, your creative planning. So we came with, you know, almost $50 million in needs, and you were able to prioritize, but then also, Walter was able to find some ways to take care of some of those things. So not everything that we can't get done this time has to wait. Some things can kind of happen in district. The way that you all worked together, I think, was fantastic, and everybody had the same goal of getting our buildings to the point where they don't have as many health and safety needs. I have no additional comments other than to say thank you for all of that hard work.
Thanks, Nancy. So, yeah, just to remind people, I know this is something that we all are very familiar with, but I think it is worth repeating. This would be a $23 million proposal, but with no increase to the tax burden. I know people have asked me that recently, and I've been reminded, maybe we don't say that enough because we said it so often at the beginning, so it's worth repeating. Yes, I'm happy with how this has come together, particularly from the long-term strategic planning approach, that we are addressing all of these issues through one of three means: the bond, in-house, or a future bond. This bond is a big chunk of that, but the Facilities Committee's work wasn't just figuring out what to include in the bond, but how do we address all of these needs? And I'm confident with the conclusions that we reached. As far as I know the fields issues have been, there's just been so much discussion about it. I'm comfortable with the recommendation for the high school. I understand the football program's position completely. And I wish that we could have, one field that would be optimal for every sport. But the reality is the high school field addresses all the sports that are currently played at the high school. That's soccer, all levels, lacrosse, all levels, field hockey, all levels. And as a committee and as a board that's looking for one facility that would address the most needs, I find that there's more value for more kids at the high school than it would be for a field at the middle school. But I would remind everyone that part of the long-term planning has been to identify a way to maintain the middle school field in the meantime so that it is at or above the current level, so it can still be played on if that's the location that people want to be at, but also that we would have a middle school field on our radar the next time we do this, which, if we plan appropriately, could be in a matter of a few short years. And just to summarize the conversation we just had, I like this idea. So we can vote on this tonight to move forward, so turf is still on the table, as long as we're not bound to that, right? We would just have to get our paperwork in the works. But then in the meantime, I do think, getting an expert in here, and if we could, if possible, to get a presentation live, I think that would be ideal. And the two things to hone in on would be risk of, health risk of artificial turf, generally speaking, but I think the infill in particular, what kind of infill would be the healthiest approach. And with that, I too am comfortable voting on this tonight.
So I want to again thank Larry for his leadership, everyone else who was on the committee. I definitely support this proposal as it's being put forth this evening. I think I've said this in the past, we need to look towards the future. Doing the athletic facility right now at the high school benefits our students. It benefits our student athletes, and so many of them. I said this, I think, at the last meeting. It was hearing from our athletic director was eye-opening for me, and hearing her point of view was very, very informative, as explaining to us from things from the athletic trainer to high school students being able to stay after school for extra help if they needed it, and then going to their practices, things that I never would have even thought of. And then also hearing from middle school principal about the impact of having high school students while her kids are still there in school. So all those extra things also made a lot of sense. I'm certainly a historic person. The history of this community is amazing and will always be amazing, but I think that it is time for us to now look towards the future and to look towards our high school athletes and all of them in every venue. And this project for the athletic facility supports so many teams. And I think that that's where we need to look towards. As far as the rest of the project, there's the immediate needs and the most urgent needs are now, and then there is the plan for things that, as everyone has said, that will be done in-house, and then what can we do a few years down the road. And so there is a long-range plan here, and I think it definitely was time that the district moved towards that. And so the community should know that we are aware of what needs to be done now, and then things that can be done down the road. And I thank everybody for their help on that.
Thank you, Nancy. So I also have a statement from Teresa to read. I think I'll read that at the end. Whoever goes last, if Larry goes beyond me, I'll just read hers to close. Yep. But personally, myself, when you speak late in the game here on the circuit, I echo all the sentiments that everybody has said here. To repeat it again, the facilities committee met months and months and months ago to present, to identify a recommended scope of work, and I think we did that, and we met an awful lot. I mean, it was all over fall we met. It was, if we weren't at a facilities meeting, we were at this meeting. So certainly the time was put in. I want to thank all the facilities members that took place and that attended those meetings, from all the community members, with the board members that were present, and the district personnel that were there. Walter as well, his name has been mentioned tonight. I think his creative, or I should preface first, he's created a team that has given us the ability to kind of, hone this bond proposal down and be able to take care of a number of things in-house. So kudos to him for, putting that team together and to be able to coach them and lead them and get these, have the quality personnel to be able to, do this work in-house. An agenda meeting or two ago, the idea of a third-party specialist was floated as well to address or attend to the idea of the crumb rubber / the actual field surface itself. So I think that's very important that we get those data points to, like you say, we can certainly vote the way we're going to vote this evening, but ice that just for a moment until we get those data points. I think it's critical. I think, John, I believe you're right. Let's get some information here and make sure it's right for the students. Make sure it's right for the children. I personally can say I support this and I'm for this. I was on that committee and I stand behind it. Thank you.
I think the one thing that I keep in mind through the whole process was the students. 20 years ago, the high school was built, and I truly believe that if it was funded appropriately, this facility wouldn't be a discussion today. It would have been built at the high school when the high school was built. I can remember when I was in high school, I would leave the high school, go out and watch the various games being played. That can't happen now. A lot of those kids can't go because some of the games are played down at the middle school. I think if it would be a positive, I think, for the student body, for the student athletes, for those kids that do have after-school activities, to then go out and watch a game that would have been played down at the middle school, now that would be played at the high school because that field would be able to do it. I think that one of the positives of a field like that, and I think of an artificial turf field, is that we can get more teams playing. We don't have a whole lot of fields, and that would help expand the number of fields that we have. I always hear the pride And my kids that went to the middle school as a high school talk about the pride they had when they were there, that their football team played at their building. I now talk to those same kids, and they're the ones that tell me they wished it was that their children wish that it was at the high school, because they don't have that same kind of feel that, having it separated that way. So there's, I believe, a feeling of pride missing with some of the students that this would help with. We've had a whole generation, when you figure 20 years, we've had a whole generation that did not have a full athletic experience at the high school. So it's just something to think about, Anyway, I think that obviously I support the project as proposed. Can you do
I'll
it?
try to raise my voice a little bit.
Can you do it in a high-pitched voice?
Hold on, let me turn my mic off. Okay, so this is from Teresa. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend tonight's board meeting due to a personal conflict. All board meetings are important, but tonight's meeting is essential to our district's future. Several years ago, the board and administration showed the foresight to create a capital reserve fund, and now combined with funding from the state, vital work consisting of repairs, maintenance, and improvements can be performed without raising taxes. I want to thank the Facilities Committee, which included all stakeholders in our community, for their countless hours that went into the proposal being put before us tonight. I hope our community can look at this project as the beginning of a well-thought-out plan that is fiscally responsible and will benefit all. We could not include everything all at once, but this is a great start. I fully endorse this proposal and look forward to the public support in the spring. Respectfully, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. She's right there on his iPad. I can see her. Okay, anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? Okay, so.
Hey, Nancy, just
go ahead, John.
a comment on the procedure moving forward then. So I know notice we have a lot of whereases. Should we include a whereas to this conditional property of the research on turf fields being done and then having that contingency put into this?
I don't think we need to do that because it is going to be done, and then at that point, we can decide which way we want to go, John.
So some whereases are okay, but that whereas is not? Is that what you're saying?
I'm confused. I don't understand what you're saying.
So this document reads very legalistic. It has lots of whereases, whereas the Facilities Committee was charged with this to a resolution. We discussed tonight this issue of whether it be turf or grass needs continued research, right? And the way forward that Harvey articulated, I think we're all in agreement, makes a lot of sense, and that's what we should pursue as a board. So whereas that makes sense, wouldn't that be part of the resolution?
I think Harvey's already explained that we don't have to keep turf. We can change that if we want to. So
yeah.
Am I correct, Harvey, on that? Yes. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Teresa's got her thumb up. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carried. Thank you all.
Belinda, just note that Teresa is a yes or is an aye. Thank you.
Okay. So we come to our next opportunity for recognition of visitors. Again, you may address the board this evening. Each person is asked to speak into the microphone, identify him or herself. We are asking you to please limit your comments to 3 minutes if possible so that more people can have an opportunity to speak. And we will have a 30-minute allocation for this final time. Please remember that there's no cross-discussing between persons or the board. Each speaker may speak once during each comment period. And please remember that personal attacks of any kind have no place in our community, district, or meetings and only serve to create conflict and tear us apart at the exact moment when we should be coming together. Anything of this nature directed towards staff, students, or community is unacceptable. Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak, we'd ask you to come up to the microphone.
Barbara Gosnell. Okay, I'm sitting here rather dismayed because we're talking about capital project, how wonderful this is. But we have had 2 years of a pandemic. We have had education that has been thrown to the wind. Our students have been virtual, they've been in the classroom, they've been everywhere. And I'm not hearing anything about their performance, their academic assessment. Where are they? How many students do we have that are below grade at every school? And what are we doing to support those students and the teachers who are dealing with this as well? And what are we doing to set goals for them, to make sure that those children are brought up to grade level or better? Isn't anyone on the Board of Education interested in that? Isn't that job number one? I'm shocked. Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry I had to leave. I had a business meeting in the village going on. So,
Dave, please state your name for the record.
my name is David Carnwright. I'm a village resident, lifelong village resident. First, I'd like to read a letter that was sent to me from the Chamber of Commerce from Cornwall. The vice president was unable to attend tonight, wanted to attend, and would offer this letter. The Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce mission is to support successful businesses for a successful community. The Chamber also believes strongly that a community with strong support for local sports and recreation is good for business. It is for this reason that the Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce recommends to the Board of Education to support investment that will keep local sports here in Cornwall versus moving it out to the high school. Kind regards, Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I would also like to state for the record that the village board had a resolution which we pulled back to not be political, but we were 5-0 against moving the sports complex out of town. And I believe that I'm not going to speak for the town, but I spoke for all of them. They're also against moving sports out of town. Let me just make I was the dissenting voice on the facilities committee, if anybody wants to know, and I've been on that. I was on that committee since 2003. So I've been down a lot of these bonds, and I know they failed, and people say, well, they failed because they were whatever, but they probably failed because they cost taxpayers monies, and people don't like to have their taxes raised. It's that simple. Just to cover a couple things, we've been playing football here since 1958, and it's not all about football. I get that. It's easier for the kids to go out, but it's a tradition, and most people believe that the attendance at the games will go down at least 30% if you move it out of town. Not to mention what the traffic's like out there, the parking. We've been through all this. I just think that when somebody says that the football players want to play out there, that's just not true. That's just not true. We polled the football players. Every football player but one said they'd rather play in town. And this bond does not address the youth programs, to my knowledge. You can do whatever you want at the high school, but what about K through 8? Don't they count? If you want to use proper distribution of funds, shouldn't K through 8 be getting about $5 million out of that $8 million that's been allocated for the athletic portion of the program? I just don't see it. Definitely doesn't help our youth. It doesn't help our youth program. The continuity that we have with varsity sports right now is unparalleled. That's why we have championship teams. That's why we the only team in Orange County to ever win 2 state championships back to back. It's because we've been doing youth for 27 years, and the continuity of that program will not continue. I'm telling you right now, it will not. If our kids can't see their brothers playing on that field, and they won't be able to because they'll be down here practicing because there's not going to be enough room at the high school, and we're not bringing 100 cars out there. So anybody who thinks that things won't change, they'll change. And I don't believe it's for the better. I respect everybody's decision. I understand all of that. I think we could do 2 fields. There's no doubt in my mind we could. And this is with the architect's pricing. We could do both. All the football people ever wanted was a better field, stands, and a bathroom. That's all we want, and to play games in town. And if somebody can say that that's not true, they can speak now.
This on? Us? Oh, can you hear me? All right, Jackie Keegan. I was here at the last board meeting and I spoke, and my one question was about parking at the high school, and I was told that there was 500 spots. And so I went and looked at a map of the high school, and according to the student parking, there was like 381 spots marked off. And even if you counted the additional parking that is proposed to be made, it ended up to be about 490 spots. And then I looked and I said, well, there are 70 kids on the varsity football team. So if you allow 1 car per person for just varsity players, you're at 100 parents, easy, 100 spots. You also have, you said you're going to have high school sports out there and you're going to have kids staying after and watching the game. That's another 50 to 60 spots. And then you have the visiting team coming and you have other spectators. And I really want the board to tell me who is going to stand at the bottom of Dragon Drive and turn people away. Because I've been to the high school every morning, I drive my son every day, and I see the backup on 94. Where is the agreement? Who are we paying? Are we paying Mount Airy to rent parking like we do in shuttle busing for home games? Because if we're expecting the same attendance, we don't have enough spots for them. Are we going to pay Meadowbrook to use their parking lot and have people walk across 94? The complaint about the parking at the middle school was that it was too busy and people are going to get hit. Hasn't happened ever that I've known, but that was one of the major complaints. But yet you're telling me that on 94, the parking and the nightmare that it is, I mean, in fact, the school just changed their dismissal policy because it was getting too dangerous for parents dropping and picking up kids at the end of the day. If we can't handle the 300-400 kids that are driving now out there, how are we going to handle a varsity football game? I really think that is a key indicator of what we should be looking at. That's a cost that is not on your budget. It's not factored into the project at all. And I think that is a major concern. And I started really looking at all of the budget items. And I don't see those items thought about. Are they in that contingency? Because I thought that was the contingency was supposed to be for project overruns. But I don't see a line item for that. And that's something that this board needs to consider because you're going to have accidents on Route 94. The people who live around there are already not happy with the school and the way things are being handled in the first place. Now you're just asking for more community dissent. It's a thought.
Good evening. My name is Vishwa Chaudhary from Cornwall on Hudson. So I have 2 comments. One is about
Excuse me, could you just put the microphone, thank you.
I have 2 comments. One about the AstroTurf and one is personal. So can we agree that people in Goshen who pay about the same as high taxes as we do, their property values are high, and they're at least as intelligent as us, and they care about their children, right? They just put a AstroTurf field. Have you seen their complex? It's beautiful. So AstroTurf has been around since the 70s, I think. And I don't see cancer rates. I don't see any studies that says cancer has gone up. So anyway, consider that. Now, 40 years ago, I moved here, and I fell in love the first day, and I said, this is where I'm going to live and die. And when they built the school out there, they almost killed my spirit. But I persevered. I raised 2 kids, 2 boys, both played football, and I bleed green. I literally bleed green. I'm drag. I may be dark in skin, but I bleed green. I'm telling you right now, I intend to live here. I have intended to live here for the rest of my life. But if you, and that's one of my activities, as old as I hope I'm 100 and going to the games at the middle school. If you move this field out there, I'm just one man, you will kill my spirit. Okay, so go ahead and move it on out.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Cassie. I reside on Shadowwood Lane, which is right next door to the high school. I attended one of the public forums to express my concerns, one of which was listed in the PowerPoint that Brendan presented. I'm a little disappointed when I heard at the last meeting that not all the board members here had either attended or watched the public forum videos, because there was significant public input in relation to the location of the field, most of which was in favor of the middle school. I and my neighbors also brought up significant concerns outside of a fence dividing our property. We have experienced trespassing, littering, public urination. My backyard has been used as a changing room during the invitational track meet over the several years. I appreciate that you're considering the environmental and health impacts to the students who might be playing on a turf field, but I'm going to ask you to consider the environmental and quality of life impacts that those of us residing next to this multi-sport complex are going to have to endure. I brought up issues at the public forum meeting in relation to noise, in relation to light pollution, in relation to traffic. I have for you pictures of the traffic that occurs every morning at the high school when students are being dropped off. And I'm asking you how you are going to deal with this. There is bumper-to-bumper traffic every morning from Route 94 all the way to the entrance of the high school and then all the way back. My husband is unable to turn out of Shadowwood Lane onto Route 94 to go to work. If he is lucky that someone lets him in, he then has to immediately go around the traffic and drive against traffic to be able to make a left-hand turn on Mount Airy Road. This is a serious issue. This is a safety issue. If in fact we are going to have hundreds of people coming to football games as hundreds of people come to graduation, how is this going to be managed? Is the district going to have to pay for traffic control every time there's a sporting event? And how are you going to address our quality of life issues in the neighborhood that pre-exists Cornwall High School? We lived there before the high school was constructed. We agreed to some terms in terms of the high school, but now we're being faced with a multi-sport facility that is literally in our backyards. And how are you going to address my quality of life on Friday nights when the speakers are blaring and the lights are glaring into my home, into the home of my neighbors? I'm a taxpayer in this community. I understand we have to do what's right for the kids, but that's within the context of our community. And so I ask you, and I know you're not going to answer me because there's no back and forth at these meetings, but I ask you, how are you going to address that? I have several packets for you to look at the actual traffic that I look at every morning and that my husband fights to get out of the road. Because I think it's important to understand the concrete issues that we face living as residents next to the high school. It's great to have committee meetings and make decisions in vacuums, but this is what we live with. And on a side note, as an educator, I find it a bit troubling that we're talking about an $8 million bond for a multi-sport facility when your teachers don't have a contract.
All right, still on? Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Tom Keene. I'm the Vice President of Cornwall Youth Football, and I went through this last meeting about how the importance of this middle school field is to our program and to the kids, all the kids who play youth sports in this town from 8 to 8th grade, so kindergarten to 8th grade, and how important the field here is to them, okay? I've also heard board members publicly say how terrible the conditions are of that field. So to hear that, oh, maybe we'll fix it, maybe we won't, maybe we'll just maintain it as is. Well, I hate to break it to you, the current conditions are atrocious. It's not acceptable for that field to stay the way it is. To spend $200,000 to appease somebody about chrome rubber and not $1 for any kind of youth sports in this town is ridiculous to me. These kids deserved it. Their parents are taxpayers. They're student athletes. We need to invest some money in youth sports in this town. You could spend $8 million, put a new field at the high school. If you kill youth sports in this town, no one's going to be playing on those fields. You have to invest in the youth sports in this town. Please let our parents know that they matter too, and our student athletes matter. Find the money to at least fix up the fields and the stands. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Mr. Lavelle, go ahead. Kevin, to the microphone and identify yourself. Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
All right, Kevin Lavelle again. Breaking news, the New York State Supreme Court Justice Thomas Rademacher has ruled that the governor's mask mandate for students is illegal. The governor and state education department have no authority to enforce this mandate without the approval of state lawmakers. That just came out tonight.
Thank you, Kevin. Please, Anthony, please tell everyone your name.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hallelujah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm really sorry that I'm getting into this process kind of late, but honestly, I only find out about this 2 weeks ago. And Mr. Brendan, yes, I received the card and I sent it in. Now, can I, since I gave you the last week when I came down a name, Amy Griffin. Anyone can hit the Google and find all the information you need to know about artificial turfs. Artificial turfs, let me back up a little bit. I don't want to speak simply as a taxpayer from Cornwall. Tonight I want to speak as an expert. I have worked in the textile industry since 1960. I'm well known and sought out by a lot of companies. Monsanto, DuPont, Exxon, Celanese, Lears International, Fruit of the Loom, Nikes. And ladies and gentlemen, the project I most admire is NASA. I worked on carbon fabric for the space shuttle. So you need an expert, you got one. What I noticed in the last two meetings, there is very little knowledge here. No one knows what artificial turf is. I worked with polypropylene in 1970 in Canada. I worked in Virginia, in North Carolina, and presently, I even work with a company that makes the polypropylene in the grass field you want to install. You lack knowledge? It is for each and every one of you, or the board members. Well, I heard what you guys said. We have this from Mr. Dade, Mr. Argenio.
Anthony, just Linda's typing, so if you could go a little easy on that
Okay.
table, please. Thank you.
Mr. Philomena Rose, Margaret Quinn, John Ellenden. Ellenden, am I killing
We got
it?
this thing going. Thank you.
Okay, great. Jim Cragen, Brendan. Oh, by the way, Brendan has my email and my contact information. Anyone needs any information, call me. My home, your home, whatever. Teresa, Nancy Bryan, Lottie Bergen, my buddy. We work together on quite a lot of projects. And I know the problem with the high school, that wasn't underfunded. It was because it was rushed. It was supposed to go right against the military academy by Mr. Amado. They were very close to making a deal. But Mrs. Davis, the superintendent, was in a hurry. And that's why they looked for elsewhere. But that's another story. I don't want to go there. What I want to tell you, that Amy Griffin was and is a soccer coach in the University of Washington. She cared a lot for our children, for the students that she's teaching. Like everyone else over here does, and like all the teachers here do. Everyone does. I worry about my grandchildren. And by the way, my family, my sister taught for 42 years. My daughter, 20 years. My niece, 20 years. And recently, my new daughter-in-law, she teaches for children that are retarded. And some of them are from Cornwall. But that's another story. Amy noticed that two of her students coming back from college developed leukemia. She went and visited them. And the nurse there said, "Are you guys goalies? I hooked up 4 other goalies this week." And she came, "That's strange. How can it be?" So she kept a list. And around 2008, 2009, her list kept growing. No one was doing any experiments or any science to find out why. And she was, quite frankly, when she had 56 people on her list, and in those documents, they all listed the type of cancer, how many, and their ages. And she asked everyone that will listen to look, says, I'm not that smart, but these kids are getting sick. I need help. And that's when people, doctors, university, they start looking into it. In 2015, she had over, no, I could be wrong, but over 56 people on. Today, the 270 people are getting sick. One of the last things, two things you should know now. One, look, and all of you can look it up, GMAX. GMAX is the term that calculates the force of an impact. A child falling down against the ground or against a hard surface. 120 to 140 GMAX is acceptable. 160 is serious. 200 is fatal. Natural grass is very soft. The turf field will get hard. They will disintegrate in time. They get very hard. They didn't tell you that. Whatever expert came down from the company that's selling you this stuff. This is garbage. People are getting sick. You cannot rush this. The time frame that you're discussing it is out of the table. You get those kids sick, and every one of you, as a board and individually, you need to talk to your lawyers. People that get sick will have the ability to sue you. It has to happen. So think about it. I'm going to close because I know that it's time. But really, read those reports. Everything that I gave to the Cornwall local, I didn't just write a letter. I gave them copies of the documents that I'm giving you. So everything is supported. It's scientific study. One last item just came to mind. Before 2008, 2009, no one knew about children getting sick. And this artificial turf, it really came in the market in 1970. It started coming out in 1990. In 1970, in 1960, polypropylene was developed in DuPont. I built machinery for that. I'm familiar with it. In 2020, the latest thing, one other comment and I'm done.
We're at our 30-minute period, so please wrap
Right.
it up. Thank you,
I'm
Anthony.
wrapping it up. Look up, Google PFAS. That's the same chemical that they found in the Newburgh drinking water. The same chemical is in the turf field. Turf field and lead. The standard for New York and PFAS is 10 parts per trillion. That is a 10 plus 12 zeros behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, we're going to go to closing comments from the board. Caleb and John, and then if you both would like to head home as soon as you're done, that's okay too, because it is getting late. That's your choice, okay? So, John, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank all of you for having this again. I mean, both of us have calculus homework to get to, which is very hard, but these meetings are always very fun. And thank you for whoever gave me the milk chocolates. Assuming, it's Larry, thank you.
I'd like to echo the same things as Johnny, but I'd also like to echo just the thanks for all the work that's been put into the capital project, because as we've discussed, COVID has been a big issue for students, and the issue of athletics is something that is extremely beneficial to many students' lives, and it's something that, regardless of the semantics of how this project will develop, where it will be, what grass will be used, regardless, the project itself is something that will be benefiting the students over everything, and I thank everyone who put effort into that and the work that's going forward with it continually. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Nina, go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you to John and Caleb. As always, your reports from the schools are the best part of these meetings. The music, the sports, the drama, the arts, the charity with the annual, the animal shelter fundraiser, the science fairs. There's so much good stuff going on in the schools, and I know the teachers are working hard, and all the other staff are working hard every day to make certain that everybody's getting an education and that everybody's engaged. And we're living in really unusual times. You hear the reports across the nation. I'm listening to them in Bloomberg. There is a void in education that was created by COVID, and that's unavoidable. And I think the district is trying to address everything to get the kids back to where they ought to be and to fill in those voids. I want to say thank you to the facilities committee and all the committees, but I know the facilities committee, I heard the Cregan kids down the street screaming for their dad every night. Sorry, sorry, I had to throw that one. But no, I know that the facilities committee put a lot of work into everything that was here. As a board, we rely on a lot of the committees and the participation from the community in those committees to do a lot of groundwork. And I know that there has been a lot of studies, a lot of community polling. There's been a lot of work that's gone into getting us to this point, and there's a lot of things that really have to get attended in the school. It's great that we can do them with having pre-funded this through having the capital put aside already without raising taxes. And I hope that that's something that everybody looks at. I know we're not going to make everybody happy in anything that we do. So I think we have to go with the best advice we're getting, and that includes, of course, for the turf. I really would like to see more on that. So thank you to everybody for your contributions.
John?
Excuse the quick interjection. Mr. Flannery would be very disappointed if we didn't do our calculus homework, so we're going to go attend to that now. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Hey, so before you guys go, thank you so much for what you do, spreading the good news and also giving us the vibe on what's going on in your school. Very important. You put a real sense of what's going on to all the words, so thank you for being part of our process here. Very important. Have a good night. So while I'm on the kick of expressing thanks, facilities committee, great lift. Thank you for meeting. Thank you for getting us to where we are tonight. And the communications committee, the members that kind of, I love it when synergy happens, and between the facilities committee and the communication committee, there's some synergies that happen there, and I'm grateful for that. I know we have a lot of work still to do to get us to where Harvey can actually have a ballot that goes out and the community be aware of it all, but I think we've gotten off to a good step, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that we're going to get to a good place. when all the dust settles on this. So thank you, one and all, for your efforts in getting us to where we are. And I look forward to something positive in the future on that. I want to thank the public for coming out. I find it invaluable to hear all the varying perspectives. Some reinforce others. Others are kind of new. I like the idea that we've started introducing these follow-ups. I think Harvey did that recently in terms of following up from previous meetings on certain things. A couple things from tonight's meeting that I would like to add to those issues to be followed up. Obviously, we talked about the turf field. I look forward to reading Mr. Acano's packet, but I think that's very important for us to get right. The moral significance of our actions we should not take lightly, and just because it's cheaper doesn't necessarily make it the right thing to do. But I want to make sure that we always keep the safety of our kids first and foremost in our actions, and that dovetails to what Mr. Lavelle said tonight about masks. Okay, there's lots of data that's coming out. I think it's imperative for us to put that on the agenda on work sessions as we move forward, to have real communication and discussion, looking at the various research and find a way that we can move forward and take a positive stance on that, because it has been detrimental, and there's a lot of science that's coming out now that suggests that masks actually don't work and that it's causing more harm than not. So I look forward to the board working on that as we move forward. And then with that, I want to say thank you, one and all, and look forward to our next get-together.
Thank you. Thank you to Caleb and John. A 2+ hour meeting is certainly a real-world lesson in public governance and civics that the classroom can't teach you. Thank you to the teachers, as always, for coming out. I know this process is, of course, taking longer than anybody would like it to, but I'm confident that now talks have restarted, as Nancy said, and there's a meeting coming up in a week or so, that a deal will get done that will show the teachers that we value them while also respecting the taxpayer. I spoke about the capital project before. You know, some of these, I think Nina said there's going to be difficult trade-offs, and I think that's one thing we left out in the discussion. We've discussed it in previous meetings. Nobody's going to be happy with everything. Nobody's going to get everything they want. On net, it's a very large positive for our students, for our staff, for our teachers, for our community. So while it's never perfect, because there's always trade-offs, I think on whole it's a net, and of course there's no raising of taxes for that. The Boces trip, Margaret spoke to it earlier, was great. I won't belabor the point, but it's a very impressive operation. I'm glad that the programs there are available to our students. I will masks. I just want to say my phone has been blowing up quite a bit in this meeting. So to Kevin's point, I'm not a lawyer, but a quick skim, a Supreme Court judge in Nassau County, Supreme Court is the lowest court, of course, in New York, ruled essentially that masks, the mandate promulgating masks in New York State is illegal because it has not gone through the proper legislative process. So it says unless the state legislature acts upon this, it's illegal. The governor has issued a statement that they're looking through all avenues to appeal. I'm sure legal appeal will be forthcoming. But to my reading right now, masks are illegal in this state. I've gotten a lot of text messages that said, do my kids need to wear masks to school tomorrow? I would say, please wait till we get an email from Terry. I'm sure your email over there has been also going. I'm sure that the administration will be releasing some information on that. But please hold off on that for tomorrow morning. We will see where that legal process takes us. But going back to my civics comment earlier, I'm happy to see personally that we're realizing that the governor doesn't, have ultimate executive authority to do whatever she, in this case, wants to do, that we need to involve our legislature. So we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully that issue is taken care of and we don't have to go along with John's comments. But I'll just add, certainly, if you look at the data for this past month, when a statewide mask mandate, in addition to vaccine passports in New York City, have been in effect and cases went straight up through the roof, we see that they don't really do a lot on a community level to reduce the spread. So if folks want to wear masks, want to get vaccinated, please do. But it appears that certainly now with this new variant, that at a community level, they don't do a whole lot. So that's certainly a discussion that we'll need to have if that's not solved for us legally here very soon.
I would like to just point out that the cheerleading group, varsity cheerleading, went to nationals in Dallas this weekend, and they earned a 4th place finish, which is pretty amazing. It was so nice to hear from Johnny and Caleb again about how all these things are going to be in person, the concerts, the upcoming science fair, the theater productions, and also to hear all the great things that are happening in the schools. Specifically, what stuck out in my mind were the Acts of Kindness Challenge at Willow, which I think is great. You can learn about Martin Luther King and all the good things, and then you actually take it to the next level and do it yourself as well, which I think is a great way to make these things stick. And also the Betty White Drive for the animals, I think is amazing. It just shows the compassion that's being taught throughout the district, not only in the classrooms, but also in the activities that happen outside of the classrooms. And I think that's a nice comprehensive way to kind of run the district. And always remember, I wrote down, strive to be like Betty White, be the voice for those who don't have one, and be kind to everyone all the time. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you, everybody, for speaking tonight. Very encouraged by where we are in the conversation, particularly as it comes to doing our due diligence on safety. I think that is something that's on everybody's mind, and I very much look forward to what a presentation from a third-party expert produces. So I just to the, I know the sports discussion has been dominating everything for the last few months. I've said this before. I wish everybody would look at this as, a multi-year task. There's too much. We can't do everything right now with this one bond. I think we can do everything over the next few years when we use everything at our disposal. I do agree that if we have a high school facility, we should have something, we should commit some sort of enhanced maintenance, let's say, to the middle school field so that it is, getting a little bit of love. I would totally support that. But as far as, I just see these fault lines developing where if, as Jim said, nobody's going to get everything they want. And for those that don't get what they want right now, they might be against the other parts of the project, and I really don't want to see that happening because, again, this is not about everybody's going to get everything taken care of now. This is a multi-year process. If we all just look a little bit broader view and trust that we are going to tackle all of these issues over the next few years, I think we'll all be better off, and we'll actually get all of these things done. But if we start kind of turning on each other, that's when things get voted down, and then nothing gets done. And then we're all sitting here holding our hands, holding our hats, wondering when is the next Superman going to walk through the door? And it won't. This is our chance to get it right. We need to put one foot in front of the other here and show patience if we have to. One of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain. He said, "If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter." So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you.
One, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for considering the Facility Committee work. I do truly appreciate that. More importantly, I just want to get this right. Carrie Beloga just won the New York Gatorade Cross Country Athlete of the Year. So, and a couple of weeks back, we were given an opportunity to volunteer to work on the Boces Facility Committee. And I must have been drunk at the time, but I've just been appointed to represent Cornwall to the Boces Facility Committee. So,
Thank you, Larry. I too enjoy Caleb and John's, what they share with the schools. I love hearing that the productions are back in order. We got to go see the plays and the concerts and all that. I really love that. Everybody kind of covered really everything that anyone would want to say. Get from Carrie, so. But I will jump on the Boces train. Everybody was invited. The whole board as a whole was invited. Whoever didn't come, well, it's all good. If there's an opportunity again to go see that facility, I would encourage everybody to go see it. It was a moving experience for me. The C-Tech kids and the trades kids, that was wonderful. But seeing the special needs community out there really pulled on a heartstring. When you walk the hallways there, every educator was kinder than the next. The environment was welcome. The smiles from all the children, from the pulling the carts down the halls to walking devices, etc. I mean, it really moved you to see the attention, the appropriate attention that the students are getting, and the care and love that the teachers and the educators out there are giving them. So that was really struck a heartstring with me. I really would encourage anybody to get out there, if for nothing else, to see that portion. And we have our kids there. Cornwall kids are there, so it's important. At least it was important to me. I know the other members felt the same, to get out there and see how our kids, how and where our kids are being aided. That's what I have, everybody. Thank you. That's right. That was a highlight.
Thank you. Our varsity cheerleaders also placed fourth at the national competition down in Texas, so that was outstanding as well. The Boces, I was not able to make this Boces, but I would hope I can make the next one. I did have the pleasure of visiting Boces a number of years ago with the teachers group that I was involved with, and it's just amazing what goes on out there, and I know they have upscaled so much. They do, they've expanded their programs to even where if kids want to volunteer in their local fire company, they can take the Firefighter 1 course out at Boces, which is outstanding, rather than, they can take it as a Boces class rather than going evenings and that sort of thing. So that's was a wonderful addition that our local companies banded together to get put out there as well. And yes, my phone also, mask mandates since before the meeting started at 7, so hopefully we will see where this goes, and that's really all I have. I thank everybody for coming tonight. I thank my board. No, I know. But you're a good man, that was nice. And so before we close, Megan would like to just make an announcement to everybody.
I just have two really quick things. One, very exciting, our Elementary Science Expo is back in action, so that'll take place a week from tonight at 6 o'clock in the middle school gym. So don't miss your chance to come out and see your lava lamps, potato clocks, volcanoes, and in our house, it was always, my kids wanted to do the smelly egg project. I don't know why, but I was very happy when the expo was over. But we're really happy to have the kids back. They're excited, our youngest scientists, and it really does fuel our kids as they move up through the years. And then lastly, Scarlett Lewis, if you're not familiar with her, she is the mom of Jesse Lewis, who was tragically killed in Newtown 10 years ago as a first grade student. We had the privilege of her coming and speaking to our faculty and staff this past November at our superintendent's conference day, and she's coming back for a parent presentation on February 2nd at 7 o'clock in the middle school auditorium. So, I mean, her message is just beyond powerful. She took tragedy and she's created an entire movement, the Choose Love movement. It's pushed into our schools. It's part of our social emotional learning program, along with what we do in addition to that. So she really has a beautiful message of hope, community, and just resilience. So it's open to everyone. Join us on the 2nd at 7 o'clock in the middle school auditorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And we are ready to adjourn. I would ask everyone to please make sure you pick up your packet at the end of the table, and then your traffic pictures here as well. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you.